YouTube, Ronan Kazi. I think I did it. I think I did it. I think I did it. Yay for me. No, I'm not doing it. It's horrible. Okay, so I was thinking about today people that are self-taught. There's a name for it. I'm not going to give you the name for it. You can look it up. I don't want to be pretentious. Use a bunch of big words. But I did some research on it. And what I ran into immediately was I have a difference with the people that think that they're self-taught. Self-taught, to me, is you don't know how to do something and then you just do it. Choosing who your instructor is a different thing. Whether you don't believe in traditional learning from a teacher, but you like to learn from YouTube, that's fine. And that's part of the research, I guess. But in the truest sense, that's not being self-taught. And for what I'm going to talk about today, well, this is normally when I say, can you like, subscribe, share, unsubscribe, resubscribe, hit the notifications. What I'm going to say today is self-taught is you don't do any of that. You go out and teach yourself something. You maybe don't do the tutorial. You just try to figure it out. Sure, it's a lot longer, but you get to, in general, you get to the meat and potatoes eventually with a much better understanding of why you're doing things. Not saying it's the most efficient, but what you learn when you self-teach, when you teach yourself things, when you do this, you start to develop a methodology to go into every single thing that you look at. And why is that important? That's important because that helps you bootstrap yourself into a myriad of other topics. Faster and faster, I learned this. What were my pitfalls before when I didn't learn it? Oh, I did this, this, and this wrong. I made these assumptions. So when I come to this new thing, I realize, and you develop a way to do your life. Just exchanging one teacher for another, granted, well, there's Roxy. And Roxy, I'm going to teach you about squirting. Granted, exchanging one teacher for another can be better. If you're learning music and you have one teacher and then you want another teacher jives with your learning styles better, I can understand that. And I would agree that there's some things it's better to get some instruction on. Not all things can be self-taught. You can't learn to be self-taught on a aircraft carrier because you're part of a team and you rely on a whole bunch of different things. So some things are just inherently something that you can't be self-taught. You're self-teaching yourself maybe how the best way to do dishes. What's my process for paying bills? What is my process for washing dishes? How do I sweep? And you build things up from there. How do I play video games? What do I like about video games? Roxy, everything, really. And so as you're going up through these things, you're learning this style and you're self-teaching yourself how to do things. So when you come to anything new, you kind of have an automatic process where you put yourself through that. And at the end of it, for you, you're going to teach yourself that. That happens on a good majority of things you're going to run into in your life. How to balance a checkbook. I'm not saying that you can't learn things from going on the internet. Everyone does that. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that there is a value to doing some of these things yourself. And if you start with a video game, I know that you'd like to learn what's the fastest way. But Ronan, I don't have time to do all this stuff. It's not going to make that big of a difference if you teach yourself. You're still going to be able to get through all the content. And what's important about doing it yourself, again, I can't stress this enough. You develop a process for doing this over and over again. It gets faster each time you replicate it, and therefore you pick up a lot of different skills. You see those connections immediately instead of waiting for them to be told to you. Not saying you can't learn the other way. I'm saying part of your learning should be self-taught. I think when you're doing things in group and other people are relying upon you, then it's incumbent upon you to maybe learn in a different way, learn what they are, where they're coming from. Because, for example, in the Coast Guard, when you're working on a boat, you got to know what everyone's expecting you to do. You got to know what everyone's job is, so that if they go down, you can replace them. If you go down, they can replace you. And if something's missing, it doesn't get missed because we're relying on one person. Which gets us to the second self-doubt. A lot of people don't believe in themselves. You see something done, but when it doesn't work right away, you go, nope, nope. And that's another thing, this self-teaching, doing things by yourself, doing things you figuring out. It helps you to erase that self-doubt. It's a little seed. You nurture that, your confidence, over and over and over again by replicating this success over and over and over again. Self-doubt can be debilitating. And there might be things that you self-doubt about, but it shouldn't be. I always said this about job interviews. As long as I thought I gave it my best shot, I didn't care if I got the job or not. As long as I did my best in the interview and I put everything on the table, I used everything, I was good, I was courteous, I listened, then I don't care. It's their loss. Maybe I'm not what they're looking for. Maybe I'm overqualified. I don't know. But that comes from being successful. That comes from me doing it. Now, I'll say this to you. Let's say that you do it and then you go and say you try to get some verification. But then you have a bias, a confirmation bias. Well, I did it this way. Let me find other people that do it my way. Things are either intrinsically true or not, and they should reveal themselves to you or not. That's, I want you to think about science. Maybe you can't have the initial breakthrough, but you can understand. Quantum mechanics is quite easy to understand if it just says everything in the world is a possibility. I don't know the position or the speed of a particle. I can know one, not both. And when you start thinking about simulation theory and do we live in multiverses and all this other stuff that's super interesting, at the heart of it, it's very easy to understand. They're all possibilities. Whether that reality exists, what if at each moment you have, and I would agree that you pretty much have an infinite amount of choices at each point, so you could go in different paths at each point. Normally we stay on a path that we're more comfortable with. There's a lot of environmental factors, there are a lot of physiological factors that steer us in certain directions. And going back to circling around to the self-taught thing, I was doing more research on it and listened to a guy talk. In the first article, the first point he tried to make was dumb, and it wasn't correct. And it was correct because he cherry-picked. He said that the majority of Americans, college enrollment's going down. Now, what he didn't tell you is, compared to 50 years ago, it's like double the amount of people go to college than they did before. But that wouldn't be convenient for his argument. And so that gets into, and once someone has a gaffe like that, they're done with me. Because they're counting on you not scrutinizing what they're going to say. So, self-teaching, self-taught helps you erase self-doubt. Is there a third YouTube? Is there a third self I'm going to hit? Survey says Self-sufficient. We're doing all this to become self-sufficient. So that when you go to the bank, you understand how a loan works because you've tried to loan people money. And if you've ever loaned people money and they didn't pay it back, you understand what collateral means then. You also understand, why would you give anyone your money that's a gift if they weren't going to pay it back? Maybe they pay it back with something extra. Maybe they don't give you money, but maybe they hook you up with something or some type of consideration for you doing that. When you become self-sufficient, you learn all these things. You have all these ways to help everyone, to help yourself, help your family, help your friends. And you've learned it, and you can give them the advice. Now, it's not going to work for everyone. And I'm going to bolster my case in this. A lot of children, you can tell them, don't stick your hand in the fire. They still stick their hand in the fire. Anyone want to know why? Because they're self-teaching themselves. And we get rid of that, at least in Western societies and industrial societies, we get rid of that pretty quick. We send you to a school. Look up about why Americans have the school system they have. It comes from Prussia. I heard one thing. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't done any of my own research on that. Why do we have daylight savings? Because someone said at one point it was good for farming. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked up on that. But Ronan, if I got to fact check everyone and what they... Yeah, I get it. Do your own research. Play the game. Yes, if you want a starter, get the guy's build. Have him do his build, but then you play it. And why does he have a new build? Why does he or she have a new build each week? Well, they're doing it because they need to make money, and God bless them that they can make money. Oh, look at me, done with Mallwood. Do I got extra footage for you today, YouTube? The last video had a surprise. It was a holiday surprise for you. We talked about self today. You could talk about infinite things about self. I'm sure I'm going to circle back to self again. But what I want to know, do we have bonus footage? Come on, YouTube. Do we have bonus footage today? Survey says...